So I'm Moritz Staffel. I'm the CEO of the company Deersoft. Today we want to have a look on our 1.9 production assist release that we just published at the beginning of the week, and the functionalities that we actually bring you with this. We will have a deep dive into the wind load improvements that we have. We will look into the new production assist arena that allows you to calculate the complete roof systems and integrate with load measurement cells. We will look at the data patching and how it works. And then we will have a look at the Truss tape mode for label printing and the rendered view as PDF. As a last thing, we will look into AutoCAD and our new integration into this, so how this works around, and what you can expect when using this in order to get production assist up and running. So for the first part, we look into the wind load improvements. So with the 1.9 release, we have added the option to define the actual wind load by planes that you draw inside the drawing. We will have a look into production assist desktop app for this. The same thing will work in Vectorworks or in AutoCAD. It's just more convenient to show you this here, so that's why we do it here. So what we see is basically a small ground support that is standing in here. It is closed on 3 sides currently that are used in here. And we see one big red arrow here that basically indicates the wind load direction. What you see, the wind load is coming from the left and going through, is that the complete structure is tilted a little bit here to the right, to the left, so that actually the wind is following this. So these 2 planes, the light blue one and the dark blue one, actually take up this load. When the wind comes from this direction, the pink or magenta load plane does not really have anything in effect in there. So it's really mostly about these 2 planes. One thing that we have added in here, that when you're now in the load combination, is that you actually can add the angle from which the load is coming. So by default in here, I set it to 90. And then if I change it, for example, to 0, so coming it out this direction, you see immediately it changes the way how this has been calculated. Now these 2 planes are deactivated, and only the big middle plane in here is activated for wind load consumption. For sure, you can do any kind of intermediate steps. So you can get it from this side so that it's getting less load. You can try what's happened when you're doing in this direction, or even if you do this, so going it in with another way around with this. So it's really easy to do this kind of calculation in here. The interesting part with this is when you're doing this is you also can have a look on the workload in here. So if you're going in here and showing you the workload, you see when the wind is coming from this direction, you don't have any problems in here. So the truss structure will actually hold everything. If you now go back and actually do it so that it's coming from this direction, looking on the workload in here really troubles you. So this will not hold if the wind is coming full in this direction in here and show you this. So how to fix this? So what's in there? So for this, it's really easy. So what you need to do, you need to put in a rope in here. So when you go to a new object, go to the connections and use a rope and put the rope in there so that it's actually releasing pressure from the system in this case. You actually can do this, and you see it actually changes the calculation in here. So this corner now looks better. You still have a little bit of problems. So what you now need to do is to put in there a pipe or something in there that releases a little bit the stress onto this. But that goes too much into detail right now. We will having a look on the parameters that actually defining your wind load calculation. So the wind load calculation, the first thing in here is in the load case, actually the direction the wind is coming from. So if you're going to 45, it will come from this direction. If you're going to 90, it will come into this direction and also will blow into this direction in here. So that gives you a control from which direction the wind is coming. The wind loads plane themselves are basically then defined by a plane. So they give you the option in here to define which directions actually apply to here and how big the load plane is in here that actually is getting this. One important note when seeing this is that this is not a trivial calculation in here. I quickly show you this with the shear forces in here that are happening in here. You see, because basically only 3 sides of the trusses are supporting this plane, the distribution of the actual load into the trusses is not really homogeneous. So you see in the bottom, where the top truss is not supporting anything, you have a lot load that is put into the truss, while in the top, where both the 3 trusses can support the truss, the load shares a little bit more equally in here. So the way how you actually defining and supporting the wind load plane has a big impact on the actual calculation. That's the first thing in here. So if you're making custom forms in here, or there's something cut out, that still will work and will be making you able to calculate it. The next thing that is quite important for this is actually that you go to the structure and have a look on the settings in here. In production this 1.9, the following settings have been added. You can give the wind load CF value, which is basically how much of the wind load will be actually applied as force to here. The values can be freely defined. The default value is 2, which is a really high value. So that is something that comes from outposts of an advertisement that freely stand in the wind zone and normally go down up to 0.5. That defines how much load from the wind actually gets applied to the plane. The second option, and that's the one that's important to enable to get it working, is the use as wind load plane. If you are activating this or deactivating this, this wind load will be used as a wind load plane or not for the internal calculation of this. The actual setting for this, how this works, comes from the default wind load pressure, which is defined in here. So if you go to the settings of the load combination, you are able to give you how much load from the wind pressure comes per square meter. There's a default wind pressure for default wind pressure, and there's a default wind pressure for short-time things in there. What is by default built in is the wind load zone from France and Germany that you can use in order to get the right wind pressure values for your calculation. So all of this together allows you to calculate any amount of wind load that comes to such kind of structures and allow you to define this really easy with just drawing polygons in this thing. That's the first thing with the wind load planes in here. The next step where we will having a look on is our production assist arena product. The production assist arena product is a way to actually calculate not only calculate not only the trusses that are part of a system, but also the actual internal structure of the roof. So what you're seeing in here is an imported file from a venue. You see that the complete frames and members from the venue has been taken over and can be calculated. When you're having a look on here, this file comes from a so-called STP file. An STP file is a structural calculation format that you also can get from other FEM software like AirStab, Freelo, or Skia. So if your civil engineer has for a venue already this file, you can he can export it for you and you can import it into the production assist. I'm showing this feature in Vectorworks, but it works on all the other platforms as well, really fine. So what you're seeing in here is actually then the roof system in here, and you see how much force goes into in total in the roof system. This is currently coming from that load, this load in here. Inside the Vectorworks drawing, it shows you how much load actually gets supported by each of the different columns that are supporting the roof in here. The way how this now works and can be used is you're just using the Truss tool and just draw trusses into here. So when you're creating in here buses or rigging objects, you actually can draw them directly inside Vectorworks and create a simple rig in here. We don't stress it out too much in here. So the next thing that I'm doing in here is just adding some more hoists in here that allow you this so that they are connected with the roof system. So what you will see is that they actually automatically also get calculated and now apply their forces directly into the roof system. So they are part of the roof system in here. What you also can do when you're doing this kind of calculations is that you can add load measurement cells. So load measurement cell can be added either from the Broadway system. So if you're having a broad system array, you only need to start the log100 software that you can use it and type in the IP address and the port the log100 software is using. Or you can use the Flexer load cell integration in here. When you're having the Flexer IoT system, you just get an email as you have an account where you can log in and actually can use this to access the data in here. The idea behind of this is that you can actually calculate how much weight goes into the truss, and then in addition compare it with the actual measurement that you're doing on site. So a typical problem that you have is that when you actually assemble this, the loads don't match up with what actually has been planned. So when you're doing this with the Productionist Arena product, you actually can compare your calculation with the actual things that has been built. In order to set this up, you need to add the load cell integration in here, and then just go into the hoist and type in the load measurement cell ID. After this, the integration will be automatically and it will be synchronized after this. It's a really simple workflow once you have this and really powerful, especially when you think about trade show rigging here. For the next thing, we will having a look on the actual data connection that we have added in here. For this, I need to open a file again in Production Assist. Production Assist already have a fantastic system to do the electrical planning of an event. So you see in here the different power layouts and the different consumption and phase loads are already labeled in here so that you can use this for the actual stuff in here. What comes now with the 1.9 release is that you also can use this kind of functionality for data planning. So how this works is really simple. You just select the fixtures that you want to connect. So for example, in here, we're using the fixture 200 and let me change the workspace to all again so that we actually see this. We go in here and go to electrical and data. In there, you now have DMX in and DMX out. So what I want to do, I want to cable the DMX out of this to the actual DMX in of the 201, which is next to it. In order for doing this, I click this, and then this connection also appears up here in the scene view. So it shows me this kind of connections in here. Currently, this is used for DMX cables, but I can also apply the same scenario to any kind of data cable that this has. So all the connections from electrical connections will be displayed to the left and to the right, while the connections from data connections will be on the bottom or top of this. This is really easy when you think about it in order to do this kind of things. So when you are going in here and want to wire all of this, you also can go into there and selection data patch selected objects. This will automatically patch all the objects together and show you which objects are actually connected together so that you see how the data flow as well is in your event. In addition to this, it really easy calculates the needed amount of cables in here. So if you're selecting the 201 in here, open the more info and cables, it shows you how many cables you actually need to do that kind of connection in here. So it's not in the output, we need to look in the input. Sorry for this. Bye-bye. So you see, in order to come from this fixture in here to the next fixture, from here to here, it's a distance by 0.9 meters. So it chooses a 2-meter cable to actually do this connection. You see, this kind of thing is done for all the different cables. So it's really easy to get the cable count out of this. If you're then looking into window worksheets, there's an inventory view, which lists you all the needed cables for the different things. So going onto the filter and showing the access trace, lists you all the cables that you need in order to do that kind of connection in here for this event. The data patching works on the GDTF object definitions. So if you want to define it differently than it's currently defined, the only thing that you need to do is going to edit defining resource, jump into the object, and change the input and output connectors. So for example, if you want for this fixture to have an additional network interface in there, you just click in here a new object, add an electrical geometry, and define it then as a network input and output, which, for example, can use an RJ45. If you then save and close this definition, you see that all fixtures automatically now have as well this connection in here inside its option. The next thing that we will have a look on is our Truss tape mode. So by default, Production Assist can export labels. So this labels things where it works with the create print label PDF thing. Wait, let me first select some fixtures so that it's a little bit more easy. So I can select them, go to File, create print label PDF. I can select a label that I have created, and by default, I can print it on page-based labels. So this then looks like this. The label is not designed to nice it, but it gives you an idea on what kind of object is in there, what settings they have, what channel, which plug boxes, all of this can be configured. One option that we have added is that you now also can do this for endless printers. So if you're going to the Truss tape mode, you can select the label that you want to use. You can use the printer measurement table and then pressing OK, saving it to disk, will create you, wait, it's opening on the other screen. No, that's empty. Will create you a sheet layer that you can print with the labels at the point the light actually needs to be hung. So you don't need to measure this anymore on the actual venue, but you just need to roll out this label that you have printed so that you can hang your fixtures in there and, with this. So now I need to open my notes with this. The next thing in here is also something that we have added to the desktop app. So users that are only using the desktop app now can take the benefit of actually creating rendered views in here. In order to do this, you can start with one of our settings and jump into it. And then you can define the rendered view like this. I click on the actual rendered view, click on render view, and modify the rendering view. Now I can set in the viewport in here that shows you how you want to export this. So what we do in here, we're doing like a simple view for the client that he sees how his event will look like. Clicking on Save and Close Edit mode and start printing this by just click on the print selected sheet layer. I'm giving a meaningful name, saving it, and after a short amount of time, it's opening in here where I have it. So like this from my view that I can have then and send to a client. The last thing that I want to show you is our AutoCAD integration. So starting with Production Assist 1.9, we have an integration for AutoCAD in here. This integration allows you to work also in AutoCAD to get the stuff from Production Assist running. In order for this, you just need to load in the plugin that we sent you with this, open it, and then from there on, the Production Assist system is loaded. When I now open a drawing that has this, for example, like this demo drawing in here, you will see that it will automatically calculate this as well here in AutoCAD with this. It's also possible to connect the Production Assist desktop app with the AutoCAD system so that you actually can see how AutoCAD or how we actually see this event and seeing the results and changing them as well in our Production Assist desktop app. It also works in real time. So if you're going in here, moving the objects around, it immediately also gives you all the influence lines value and all the stuff. Even MVR and GDTF export is possible in here. So thank you very much for your attention. This was our quick demo about the 1.9 release.